I'd like to extend a warm welcome to members of the Council, officers and members of the public and press in attendance at this special Council meeting on the 25th of September 2025. Welcome to those who may be watching the meeting live on YouTube. I am Councillor John Sleep, Chairman of the Council. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast live on the Council's website and on YouTube. It will remain available for a minimum of 12 months. Please switch any mobile devices, including laptops, to a silent setting for the duration of the meeting. If the fire alarm rings, please can everyone leave the room immediately and use the nearest signed fire exit. Please go to the fire assembly point located at the bottom of the car park by the garages. Apologies. Chief Executive, do you have any apologies to report?
Apologies for absence have been received from Councillors Brand, Linford, Murray, Osborne, O'Sullivan and Ripon Swain. Are there any other apologies?
Councillor Parker.
Councillor Parker, any other apologies? No, thank you.
Okay, we will take agenda item 1, declarations of interests. I'd like to ask the monitoring officer to explain a dispensation that has been granted for all councillors.
Thank you, Chairman. So, referring to the advice I sent all members last week, all members of the Council have been granted a dispensation to speak and vote on item 2 on the agenda. This dispensation is with regard to the allowance received as a member of New Forest District Council and the potential impact that local government reorganisation might have on that allowance. Hampshire County Council members have also been granted a dispensation to speak and vote on item 2, and that's having regard to the allowance received from Hampshire County Council. So membership alone of Hampshire County Council this evening need not be declared. That will be noted for those members that are members of HCC. But a reminder that these dispensations do not extend to any interests, any other interests that might preclude a member from speaking or voting. So I think the Chairman will ask for any further declarations. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest in connection with an agenda item for this meeting?
I'm not sure if we need to, but I'm a member of the National Park Authority, so I'm not sure where that sits. No?
No, that's
okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Dunning?
Councillor Dunning?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We will take agenda item 2, local government reorganisation, final proposal. Members, I have called this special council meeting in order to meet the government's deadline of the 26th of September for the final proposals for local government reorganisation. We will shortly consider a report which details these proposals. Council is asked to advise Cabinet on the 4 recommendations contained within the report. The views expressed and any resolutions passed this evening will be reported to the special Cabinet meeting which takes place at 10 a.m. tomorrow, when a final decision will be taken. Leader, I now invite you to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, everyone. I can't quite believe we are doing our final submission tomorrow. First, I would like to thank all the officers and Matt Wisdom who have got us this far, with a special thanks to Kate for the relentless work she has undertaken with other chief executives and leaders. It has been a huge effort, and I know how much it's taken to get us here. So, you might ask, where are we? Well, from the outset, we didn't seek devolution or local government reorganisation, but we've worked extensively to do what we all feel is the very best for our forest residents. Keeping the forest whole has been our task, and I want to thank all the leaders for their united support in this. To be able to say with one voice what we would like is a very strong statement. Our residents have also spoken with one voice. They want to keep the forest rural and whole. It is clear they don't want to join a city-based council. They may occasionally shop there or use some services across our wider Hampshire region, as they do in Dorset, Bournemouth, Wiltshire. But this does not mean that they should be subsumed into an urban structure that does not reflect their local needs. Indeed, our residents have told us that life orientates into the forest, using the local businesses and facilities within our district, our communities. Our businesses have been equally clear. They want to keep the forest rural and whole. Trading back and forth is fine, but the city having any form of control is not. Our partners have said the same. Keep the forest rural and whole. They value dealing with a rural authority that listens, understands the complexity of the area we live and work in. They're concerned about loss of identity, our localness. Will a city understand our traditions? From pony trap galas to the rounding up of ponies and the pannage season. I can't see any of that happening down a city high street. Option 1 is the only option to support, not just for the reasons I've stated, but because it is the strongest option when assessed against the government's criteria. We've been part of a rigorous collaborative process, 12 councils working together, supported by expert analysis and extensive engagement. We've looked at every possible configuration. I put option 1 to you as a sustainable model that is the most balanced and locally responsive. It creates 4 new unitary councils, and crucially, for the Forest and Mid Hampshire, it gives a voice in the new strategic authority to the county's rural and market towns and their communities. It keeps the forest whole. It avoids boundary changes that would split our communities. It delivers financial sustainability with a payback period of just 3 years and an annual savings of 63 million. It's backed by robust financial modelling and a clear implementation plan. It's also the option that best supports public service reform. It enables place-based working, neighbourhood empowerment and local decision-making. It's the option that allows us to design services around our communities, not force our communities to fit around services. Option 1 is the only option that truly reflects how people live and identify with their place. It's the only option that protects our rural character, our local voice, and our ability to lead for our communities. But crucially, I want to hear the voice of the council this evening, so I would like to open the floor for a full and frank debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Steve Clark, I understand that you have a proposal on this item. You have 5 minutes in which to move a motion.
Thank you, Chairman. I do. I wish to propose a recommendation. That's as follows. That in recognising the overwhelming support from residents, businesses, local organisations and stakeholders who have clearly expressed a desire to prioritise a rural identity and governance model that reflects the unique character and needs of the New Forest and Mid Hampshire, and keep the forest whole, avoiding any boundary changes that would divide the New Forest, the National Park and our historic communities. That the Council endorses the Cabinet recommendation to submit option 1 for local government reorganisation, which proposes the creation of a new rural unitary council for Mid Hampshire, encompassing the New Forest, Test Valley, Winchester and East Hampshire. That is my proposal and recommendation for the meeting. Just a few words just to support that.
Okay, go back to Steve.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking the leader for her strong and determined leadership. And the rebuttal of those criticisms which we've seen in the press from other council leaders who seem to be sulking. They don't like the fact that we haven't buckled to their will and their strength of opinion. That's because the New Forest has its own opinions and it's done its own research, and we are making the right decision this evening. We have listened to our people, and here I think we're going to be repeating some things many times. We've listened to our people. I personally have spoken to many people in my ward and around the district. I'd say virtually everybody, but there's always going to be some that have a different opinion. Probably we'll hear some of that tonight. But the vast majority of people that I've spoken want option one. And that's been, I haven't had to ask for that opinion. They know who I am, and they've come forward and told me this is what we want you to do as a councillor. And as a councillor, I often hear the opposition saying we need to listen to our communities. I just want to assure them that we are listening to our communities. I'm sure Councillor Wade is very happy about that. We've also carried out that survey which proved somewhat controversial. I don't see anything controversial about it at all. It was merely a tool to go and speak to people, allow people to express an opinion, and they gave that opinion. So I'm not worried that some councils don't like that opinion. Yeah, I like the opinion of the people. We've also listened to our businesses. Our businesses are part of the heart of our community, and we must listen to our businesses. They want to remain within the forest. We also are taking regard to our culture and our history and recognising that remaining whole is the right thing to do. I think I came down here over 30 years ago, but I've taken, I'm only a youngster in the forest, but I've got relations who are commoners. I understand, as far as one can understand, the traditions of coming in, putting out their stock across the forest, and the actual whole environment of the forest is unique because of the way in which it's been managed over the last 1,000 years almost. And in fact, it probably responds very well for having been well managed by this Conservative administration over the last 20, 25 years or more. So we are doing what the people of our communities want, and therefore I wish you to endorse the proposal that I've put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Young, I understand that you would like to second this motion. Would you like to speak now or reserve your right to speak?
Delighted to second this motion, and I'll speak now, please, Chair. So we're convened here this evening as elected representatives on our district council, but also as inheritors of a living, centuries-long story. A story that is etched into the salt air of Calshot, whispered in the bustling village centre of Marchwood, and carried on the waves lapping at Ealing Tide Mill. This is Tottenham the Waterside, and it is all proudly New Forest in every possible conceivable way. Local democracy is so very much more than ballots and budgets. It is about belonging. It is about the unwavering right to shape the future of the place that shapes us. And in the New Forest, that future must be rooted in identity, culture, and history. Not abstract policy, but lived experience. But this isn't just about the New Forest past. It is about how the New Forest past lives on in us. The Waterside Engagement Project, commissioned by this Conservative administration, captured this beautifully. Through stories, photographs, and poetry, it revealed a landscape of unequivocal belonging to the New Forest. Residents spoke of the edge of the forest, not with fear, but with deep pride. They described their communities not as statistics, but as places of connection, concern, and character that is inextricably New Forest. And that is the heart of it, the heart of our local democracy. It must reflect the soul of a place. When decisions are made without listening to the rhythm of our communities, when governance becomes a top-down exercise, we lose something vital. We lose trust. We lose relevance. We lose the very people that make democracy matter. In contrast, when we centre ourselves, when we honour our culture, our history and our local identity, the stubborn pride that we have in our place, we build something immeasurably strong. We build a democracy that does not simply ask for votes, but truly earns them. We build a council that goes beyond managing to most effectively representing. We build futures that truly feel like home. I've listened carefully as voices opposite frequently turn themselves out with unnecessary party political mental gymnastics. Here, tonight, we should speak as one voice when we say that the future of local governance must be as textured and as rooted as the forest itself. Let us remind every planner, every politician watching, that the waterside is not a fringe, it is a proud New Forest frontier, and we, the people of the New Forest, are not passive recipients of change. We here are undeniably the New Forest's elected authors. I fully commend this unambiguous recommendation to keep the forest whole.
Thank you, Councillor Young. I will now open this up for debate. Councillor Steve Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. As you'd expect, it would be remiss of me not to mention housing this evening and the effect on our tenants under the boundary change option. Our tenants in the Totton and Waterside wards would very likely be impacted were they to be moved from our high-performing housing service. A reminder of the number of our social tenants. Totton, 864, that's across the 3 wards, of course. Marchwood and Ealing, 121. Hythe, 615, soon to be increased further by an additional 22, 23 houses on the old hospital site. Dibden, both of them, 113. Hardley, Holbury and North Blackfield, 238. Fawley, Blackfield, Calshot and Langley, 157. Not much affinity there with Southampton City Council, I wouldn't have thought. That's 2,108 in total. That's 40% of NFDC's total housing stock. I won't describe the complex issues in disaggregating contracts and borrowing and transferring data and re-evaluations required and revised policies for those tenants. It would take far too long. And you know, Chairman, it's not the loss of their annual rental income of £14 million that concerns me most, nor is it handing over in excess of £600 million worth of residential property that this authority has helped build up. It is having to lose all those tenants and their families from our housing services. And by the way, any of our current housing register applicants from those wards will have to be moved across to the other waiting list and be reprioritised. Chairman, I don't know about other members here tonight, but I certainly would not be able to look any tenant in the eye and tell them that the boundary change option could be good for them.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I start by congratulating Councillor Young on his very fine speech? ChatGPT couldn't have done better, or maybe it did. Chairman, I'm struck by the certain irony that we have cross-party consensus on this issue. I think the Liberal Democrats were first in identifying the fact that there is no love at all amongst the people of the New Forest that we should be forced into a marriage with Southampton City Council. And I'm delighted that the Conservatives have caught up with us on this. And thank you very much for acknowledging that all of the time I meet you. Chairman, there is a certain irony that only yesterday I sat in a different chamber in Winchester. And despite absolute universal commonality on this issue here, with all of the party leaders, we had Conservative councillors voting in an entirely separate fashion, which would indeed mean the New Forest being forced into a marriage with Southampton City Council. And I think that is most regrettable. And I think it's also regrettable that we had a spat between the leaders. Instead of having a sensible and civilised discussion and maybe disagreement between leaders of the various authorities, we had an exchange of letters. Well, that's a very English way of emphasising a dispute. But I think it was slightly unnecessary, and it sets entirely the wrong tone if in future we have to sit down with these other councillors from outside the New Forest and work cooperatively with them. But there we are where we are. I don't think I need to detain members too long this evening, because essentially I think we'll find we're all agreement on this one proposal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Dan Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm afraid I'm going to have to slightly contradict Councillor Harrison. Back in January, Councillor Malcolm Wade asked me what I thought of local government reorganisation, which I've lost my thread, which had just unexpectedly been announced before Christmas. I replied that as a strong believer in localism, I thought it stank. He replied he was glad we were on the same page. And I recall that Councillor Parker putting it even more succinctly than that in this chamber. It was at this very early stage I realised, although not surprised, that this crossed party lines and that we all pretty much felt the same way, just leave it alone. This wasn't just a knee-jerk, NIMBY reaction, but because I'm proud of this council. I'm proud of our services, our staff, of the very many things we get right, and how we try to learn and improve from the things that we don't always get right. This was recognised by the Corporate Peer Challenge in December. They found us to be a well-run council. Despite the colossal amount of work which has gone into LGR this year, which I will come to in a moment, my view hasn't changed. It stinks. It takes power and services further away from the people in increasingly difficult times. I'm also still very sceptical about the changes and how they will address the real issue in local government, and that's the ever-growing cost of delivering social services. As I've said before, the districts and boroughs, if well run, are still able to deliver on projects and initiatives to the benefit of our residents, whereas the counties and unitaries are struggling year on year with the spiralling social care burden. We have no power to stop LGR, and we could either have responded to the challenge or, like some councils, just refused to engage. I'm very proud for our residents that we chose the former. We might not be able to stop it, but we can put forward the very best case for the next best thing, and I believe this is what we have before us today. We all know the amount of time, hard work and effort that Kate, Jill, Alan, Matt and all of our officers have invested in this over the weeks and months, and I wish to pay thanks to them for doing so. A rural-led Mid-Hants council is the best option for the New Forest, and I'm delighted that an overwhelming majority of our residents agree. There will be no great disparity of delivering services across the cityscape and countryside. Our services will be focused on delivering for similar-sized towns and villages, and a wealth of knowledge across 2 national parks spanning all 4 of our present districts. Most importantly, we have provided a sound business case. Some said we wouldn't be able to deliver effective services in smaller authorities, and we have demonstrated that this can be achieved. Finally, the disaggregation of districts has been and will be extensively covered by colleagues, so I won't reiterate all the very many good reasons why this should never be considered, other than to highlight one very important point. The Minister directed councils to work their proposals around current district boundaries, and therefore any proposals disregarding this directive should be considered with this firmly in mind. I fully support these recommendations, and I strongly encourage colleagues on all sides of the chamber to do the same.
Thank you, Councillor Poole. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't intend to grandstand on this. There's enough of it going on already tonight. But my support for keeping the forest together has been unwavering since the beginning, and it still is there now. But I have a concern, because we're going to vote for something, and we're all on the same page with this, but it's what it means that we need to be way sensitive to. Now, in the other chamber, my vote is consistent. I voted against joining with Southampton in the county option. But what and one of the issues with all of the things is the finance. It's assumptions. This is what we think was going to happen. And what concerns me a little bit about ours is we haven't taken into account inflation, improving costs, and all the rest of it. And I suspect the other authorities haven't either. So that worries me a little bit. And the other bit that worries me a bit, because I sit on Children's Services in Hampshire County Council, and that is the most complex and challenging both financially and with the issues for young children and people that I've ever had to come across as a councillor. And I would implore, and there's a question coming in a way, that this council takes some considerable effort in understanding that aspect, because we will be, in part, some of us, both officers and some members who want to sit on the unitary, involved in that very, very complex issue. Because the sanctity and safety of the young is, to me, one of the most important things that we do. And finally, I'll say this, because I said this yesterday. I have spoken to many people in my ward, in my division, in my ward, Hythe and Dibden, and across the waterside. Nobody wants to be joined to Southampton. They see themselves as forest people. There are commoners that live in Hythe and Dibden. There are agricultural workers. There are people that work in the refinery. There are people who work in Southampton even. But nobody wants to be attached to that. They all see themselves as forest people. So on behalf of my residents, which is the most important thing that drives me to do this, I am going to support this option, which is the only one that doesn't put us with Southampton in part of the whole.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. Councillor Jack Davis.
Yes, you've all spoken very passionately. I do slightly disagree on the localist option, because technically, whether you agree with Southampton or not, a Southampton-led council is technically more local than one that stretches from the Dorset border on one end to the Surrey border on the other. We already have an incredibly large, out-of-touch council up at Winchester, thank you very much. I don't really want another one. But I just want us to be clear that regardless of whether you support Southampton or oppose Southampton, this option is not going to be localist in any sense of the word. We'll have the same problems that we have with Hampshire County Council as we will have with this option.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Woods, please.
Chairman, members, I had sleepless nights on whether I should talk to you this evening. Not accustomed to public speaking. But I did say to myself, well, what would our residents want to say? And my gut instinct is that they would oppose local government organisation. It is presented as a way of supporting devolution, yet when you look more closely, it is really about centralisation. Under the proposed unitary authorities, there would be fewer councillors per head of population. That means less local representation, and our residents will find themselves further away, both physically and politically, from the centres of administration. That said, we are where we are. If reorganisation is to happen, then option one is clearly the least worst choice for the New Forest. It reflects natural links and identities better than the alternatives. But we must be realistic about the risks. Let me highlight 3 pitfalls. First, the danger that decisions are driven by short-term financial pressures or by the debts of neighbouring authorities rather than by what works for our communities. Second, that the risk that the promised savings fail to materialise or that transition costs rise, leaving frontline services in areas like the New Forest vulnerable to cuts. Third, the possibility that the local identity is eroded, with residents feeling more remote from decision-making and less confident that their voices are being heard. So yes, if forced to choose, option 1 is preferable, but only if these risks are openly acknowledged and safeguards are built in to protect both services and community identity. Thank you.
Well done. Very good.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Councillor Rackham.
Thank you. It's such a relief to be here this evening and see that common sense has prevailed and that we pretty much all agree, certainly on the major points. As many of you know, I represent Totton, and we are geographically incredibly close, of course. We share the air of the docks and the noise from the docks with residents in Southampton. But that piece of water makes us culturally and economically very, very different. So economically, we have some big businesses, but we thrive as small businesses. We have the New Forest Mark, which gives us quality, and of course, freelancers able to work from home and not needing to travel. Culturally, we are not a city of villages in the way that Southampton is, but we're a district of parishes defined with different characters. So I'm very happy this evening that we all agree, or at least mostly agree, and I personally support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rackham. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only concern about tonight is a worry that this is a rotten proposal delivered in a very fast and rotten way. I looked in the 1974, where I was just a young activist at the time, and found that the committees and everything else, the reports and everything else, there was virtual agreement right across the parties in 1974 for the old rural district councils, including this district being folded into a new forest district council from the old rural ones. Others may remember it as well. But the concern was there was an agreement right across the parties at that particular time. I read the speeches and they were very eloquent. And I have to say that the research that went into those changes was magnificent. Compared to what we've seen today, which seems to me, and I think to others in this room as well, incredibly rushed. But the point about this one is that you had broad agreement across most parties. My concern about this one is there is this very public spat between county and districts. And that's the concern, particularly at the moment. At County Hall, I read on Friday the newspapers, and I'm sure we all did, Nick Adams-King, your Conservative leader for Romsey within the county authority, your leader saying the criticism is shameful of the Hampshire's proposals. He defends a centralised plan that drags power upwards and away from local people. And Nick Adams-King insists that the system works. But here in the New Forest, obviously we've heard now about something very different. It's backing option 1. There is no disagreement from us on that one whatsoever. It's a rural unitary with our district neighbours. They say the forest must stay whole. We say the forest must stay whole, and indeed it must do. Our identity is rural, and we say that services need reform. Even though the resulting unitary that we'll get, you could probably see from space. It's enormous. So 2 visions. 2 voices, but both conservative. They can't both be right. And let's not pretend the public have spoken with any clear voice here. Really, is anybody interested because I find it quite difficult on the doorstep to get particularly people engaged with local government with reorganisation. You see the shutters come down. They want to talk about bins, but they don't want to talk about LGR particularly, because across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight there are over 2 million residents, yet the consultation in total arranged or drew in just about 13,000 responses. That's less than 1 in 150 responded. It's the big don't care won that particular vote. For a decision of this scale, that's no mandate at all. So if County Hall is correct, then this council's Conservative leadership is wrong. If this council is correct, County Hall have been putting out misleading statements about government, the NHS and the public. So residents, I would say, deserve a bit more clarity. Instead, they get contradiction. So one is saying all is well, and one says we must change. So it's not just an internal squabble, because it does affect residents here. It's a fundamental split over where power should sit, County Hall or our communities. We know it's going to happen. So we, on this side, absolutely support option 1, and I think you should tell your county Conservative colleagues where to go.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Heron.
Thank you, Chairman. Sat in this chamber this evening, I feel like the condemned man who's asked whether he wants to be hanged, shot or drowned. He can make his choice and then his executioner can stand over him and say he got what he asked for. In this synopsis, I think that option 1 is our least painful death. I do not think it's a choice that I would make if there was one to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heron. Councillor Mbala.
Thank you, Chair. For a while, I thought some gentlemen across the table were aliens and out of touch of our common reality in the forest. Our residents see us as one team, fighting for their best interests with all our might and strength. And it's good to see some passion in the chamber tonight. Well done. Well, fellow councillors, well done for seeing the light and for adopting the Lib Dem proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mbala. Councillor Thierry.
Thank you, Chairman. One thing I think that needs to be said as we try to take some heat out of this discussion is that we are not decision makers. We will not decide the outcome of the new arrangements that are going to be put in place. It will be some Whitehall official sitting at a table with a map of the area and a lovely crayon set that he brought from W.H. Smith's. And he will sit there and will map out what is going to be the future for us. So while we may throw stones at each other because one council isn't supporting the other council is, we are not the people in a position to make a decision over our futures. We are only making recommendations. And Hampshire County Council is quite entitled to make a different recommendation to Whitehall, to New Forest District Council. Indeed, each of the membership councils have the same right to make their representation to the Minister's department at Whitehall. They will make the decision. I don't like that arrangement. I would much sooner that the future of New Forest District Council was decided in this chamber, not in Whitehall. This is where the decision should be made as to how our future is to run. The problem is, of course, is when a new government comes in, they have got to make change. It's inevitable. The Labour government did it on April the 1st, 1974, when they introduced the reorganisation. The Labour government did it again to us when in 2005 they created the New Forest National Park. And here again, in 2028, we will have changes brought upon us that we didn't want, and we didn't ask for. So who do we blame? John Hayward, because he is the Labour representation. So, John, you can take all the blame for the problem that we are in. It's all down to you. I understand you've got friends in high places. So might I suggest to you that you have a little word with them and tell them that they can't afford to do many of the things that they're trying to do at the moment. So can they really afford this reorganisation? And wouldn't it be better to leave us alone? Because we have been managing affairs quite right and quite well. In fact, as you look at these excesses of the New Forest, one would have to say that they are absolutely brilliant. And we will be handing over to the new authority a well-managed council, a council that can be proud of the achievements
Cherry,
that
we've
it
got a
has
long
made.
night.
Yes, but they're enjoying it, and you mustn't. You really mustn't deprive them of their fun. Now, let's be honest, Chairman. A guillotine motion is not what we're after. We need to express our viewpoints, and they need to be made strongly. I am not in favour.
Councillor Thierry, can I see your light go out, please? Thank you very much.
It is there any moment too. I just want to conclude by this. I don't want reorganisation. You don't want it. It's going to come, and therefore we need to make the best of the job that we have. Let's keep with the New Forest. I'd much better that it is as it is.
Councillor Armstrong.
I'm not sure I follow Councillor Thierry. But none of us really wanted this, let's be honest about it. You know, we have a council we know that's well run, and so many things are good about the New Forest. Many of us love the New Forest and are absolutely gutted with what the government are trying to do to us. So we know about that. I think in life, you know, when you make a decision in life, and we're not the decision makers, and I agree with Councillor Thierry on that, we can only do our best. You look at the negatives and the positives, don't you, in weighing up whether you're going to buy a house or whatever. If you're making an investment, you look at what's good and what's bad. And I just started to make a list. And for option one, when we look at those who are wanting something different to us, they're not rural, they're urban. The councils we're looking to link with are similar. There's others who are totally dissimilar, who want to join with us. When we look at those we want to join with, they're involved in national park support. The other ones have no experience of national parks. We will still have parish and town councils. They don't have any parish and town councils. We've had more local input from our residents and others than virtually any authority across the whole of Hampshire. The ones who want to join with us, their residents had very small input at all. Hardly any response compared to our thousands who responded. So for and against, it's a no-brainer to me. Option one has got to be where we go and do our best for the forest.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Thank you for being succinct. Councillor...
Don't worry, I'll train him.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, I will be supporting option one, as it is the lesser of evils. My deep concern is that, as we are not the decision makers, I feel that we have to be honest to our residents and to our businesses of what the outcome could be, and the decision makers will choose. You know, we've got Southampton City Council may well, due to their political allegiance, have a strong say on the final outcome. and indeed the Hampshire County Council. I do know that East Hants don't support our proposal, which is a concern, and I personally would have been more comfortable with New Forest, Test Valley and Winchester as a Fab 3. I do think going all the way to Sussex rather than Surrey is probably a step too far, and looking at the the proposed numbers of approximately 93, and I appreciate I can be quite critical of this council, but I don't like the idea of only being represented by approximately 23 councillors in our area. I do think local representation will get worse. I have very little understanding of Liphook, and I'm sure that their understanding of Sway and Boulder is just the same. And I have deep concerns of all the arguments used for LGR are not going to come into play. Looking at the finances, it's about 4 million to 5 million saving per council area without taking into account council funding, and that the county council black hole. You've got representation. I have no idea what local area committees and parish town councils will do what. Either way, they've made a good effort in the report, but I still don't think it's clear who will get what responsibility and what local area committees will get to do. And local government reorganisation has come and messed around with what works quite well, in that we have parish and town councils here and we have district councillors here who have an understanding of their local area's responsibility. I also think that when this goes forward, sadly, I think representation will get worse with who will be your councillor. They'll be asked to do more, they'll have to cover a larger area, and I do think that the rare ones in here who were born after 1974 and don't remember the last one, the Murrays, the Hartmans, the Davies, the Wades, possibly Richard, I will have to clarify, I'm unsure, but they won't come out. How are you going to have a representative council of Mid-Hampshire if you're basically going to encourage the only people who are older, retired, or are so well off? How are you going to have a representative Mid-Hampshire that really represents all the areas here? So I'm deeply, deeply concerned about this. There's a lot of unanswered questions in here. I am obviously going to support Mid-Hampshire, and I'll make 2 quick points. The Southampton City Councillor has done himself no favours suggesting that where I live should be an extension of Southampton, and that we will, and my deep concern with option 3, thank you Richard, 1981, you're older than my wife, will end up being where they put all their issues and problems. We are not an extension of Southampton, we are the waterside, we are uniquely different, and we are connected to the forest, and I truly hope that point is made clear. Thank you, members. And I do note in the report there are lots of pictures of Hive, lots of love for Hive and Dibden. Well, I'd like you to put money where your mouth is till 2027. Thank you.
Thank you, young Councillor Wade. Councillor England.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Councillors, I'm very lucky to represent both the town of Lymington and Boulder Parish Council. So I have both views, and I know that my Boulder Parish do not want to be anywhere near Southampton, and the same as Lymington doesn't either. And I feel that if everyone in this chamber, the devil's in the detail, and we don't have the detail yet, but I feel that us going together and showing the government, obviously, as Councillor Theory said, the gentleman or lady who makes the decision will probably have no passion for our area at all, and it'll be box-ticking exercise. But it's still up to us, for our constituents that do glaze over when you mention it and only want to mention the subject that's really close to their heart at that moment in time, are the ones that really need to be informed. So when we go back, and I'm sure we will get another opportunity, that's when we take our constituents with us in a stronger voice than we do when we had this foisted upon us just after Christmas, when nobody really cared apart from the rubbish Christmas presents they probably got, and that was ours. So thank you very much, councillors, for coming together and showing a united front with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor England. Councillor Steve Clark, would you like to respond as the final speaker?
Just briefly. It's been wonderful tonight to see us all setting politics aside completely. Not a single political comment from anybody in the chamber. So good to see. But seriously, we are all speaking with one voice. And that's the important thing. It's great to see Malcolm Wade is walking the streets of the waterside. with good purpose, I hope.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, anyway. I like the point from Councillor Woods when he said vast majority of the people he's spoken to up there in the far reaches of Fordingbridge don't want the forest to change. I think that's another voice we've heard today. Most of us here would not want the forest to change. Whatever our political view, I think we all have done a good job for the people of this area. And we would continue to do a good job. But, as Councillor Paul pointed out, we're not being given a choice. This is a choice that's being presented with us. And as Councillor Thierry said, Councillor Hayward, of course, is the only one who can prevent it. So, in brief, we all have one voice. We all have one option. And we know what that option is because it's the number one. And that should be the one that we hope everyone will listen to. And I hope I'm going to see a totally unanimous vote in just a moment. I think it's probably the first time we will ever see a totally unanimous vote because there's been abstentions on some of the other ones when it's been almost there. But hopefully a unanimous vote. Members, vote for one.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Members, thank you all for your contributions to this important debate. I will now ask officers to take an electronic vote on the motion proposed by Councillor Steve Clark and seconded by Councillor Young. Monitoring officer, would you wish to clarify the motion?
Thank you, Chairman. The vote has been sent. The motion is that in recognising the overwhelming support from residents, businesses, local organisations and stakeholders who have expressed a clear desire to...
Order, please, please.
prioritise a rural identity and governance model that reflects the unique character and needs of the New Forest in Mid-Hampshire and keep the forest whole, avoiding any boundary changes that would divide the New Forest, the National Park and our historic communities. So the Council endorses the Cabinet recommendations to submit option 1 for local government reorganisation, which proposes the creation of a new rural unitary council for Mid-Hampshire, encompassing the New Forest, Test Valley, Winchester and East Hampshire. That's the motion.
Thank you.
And that result is with you now.
Members, you've all seen it. A fantastic support. Thank you. Leader, would you like to add anything before I proceed to the next agenda item as Chairman of Cabinet in relation to the debate on this important matter?
Yes, just to say other crayons are available.
Thank you. We'll go to agenda item 3, questions. Members, a supplementary agenda was published yesterday with questions to be asked at this meeting. These were reviewed by the Chief Executive, and those considered to be relevant to the business on the summons are included in the supplement. I, as Chairman of the Council, consider that there are special circumstances to allow questions to be asked, and that they relate to LGR, which is the reason behind the calling of this special meeting. Therefore, in order to comply with our Constitution, the item of questions should be considered at this meeting. We have 7 questions, and a reminder that we have a total of 30 minutes for this item. Any member asking a question who is not in attendance will have their question dealt with in writing, as will any question falling outside the 30 minutes. Each question shall be put and answered without discussion. Each reply should be no longer than 3 minutes. I will invite each member who has asked a question if they have one supplementary question arising from the answer, which should be dealt with in a maximum of 2 minutes. We will take the first question. Question 1 from Councillor David Harrison to the Leader of the Council, Councillor Jill Cleary.
Chairman, if I'm allowed to do so, I'll withdraw the question. Because What I'm doing is accepting the point that it's not your own councillors that are not following your lead on this. It is the Conservative councillors at Hampshire who are going in a different direction.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. You withdrew while you were still speaking. Question number 2 from Councillor Carolyn Rackham to the Leader of the Council, Councillor Gio Cleary.
So I think because we've had the debate, what I was going to ask is also no longer something that we need to have the answer for. So I'm also going to withdraw the question, if that's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Rackham.
Wasted time.
Question 3 from Councillor Colm McCarthy to the Leader of the Council, Councillor Gio Cleary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to retract my question on that also, due to the fact that I think my questions have been answered here tonight. And I'd like to thank the opposite party here tonight for your input on the behalf of Leamington and Pennington. So I'd like to withdraw my question also.
Thank you to Councillor McCarthy. Question 4 is from Councillor Stephanie Osborne, and as she's not here, she will be answered in writing. Question 5 from Councillor Mark Clark to the Leader of the Council, Councillor Gio Cleary.
It was interesting because I couldn't put this question in until before the LGR discussion at Hampshire County Council. And as we know, 2 councillors from the Conservative side had been on the fence. We weren't sure which way they're going. But given it was a full house tonight, I shall withdraw that question.
Thank you. Thank you. We will go to question 6 from Councillor Alex Wade to the Leader of the Council, Councillor Gio Cleary.
Yeah, I'm asking mine. What effort will be made by NFDC to present what options 2 and 3 could mean for our residents and provide a clear view of the likelihood of either proposals which are not favoured by NFDC or people in this room being the final outcome?
Thank you for your question. Let me begin by saying that whilst none of us have a crystal ball to predict the final decision of government, what we do have is strong evidence-based case for option 1, a case that puts our residents first, protects local services and strengthens local democracy. That said, we recognise the importance of our residents' engagement in whatever the outcome might be. As the programme progresses, we will ensure that our residents are kept informed. We are committed to presenting what this could mean for our communities in a clear and accessible way. Ultimately, our focus remains on securing the best possible outcome for the New Forest and its people, and we will continue to advocate for that with integrity and transparency.
Thank you, Leader. Sorry, have you got a supplementary?
Thank you very much for that. And while we all are on the same page here, will we continue to make it clear as a collective, as a message, that other things might be our fault, but NFDC has made it clear they're a consultee, not a decision maker, and to make our residents understand that so any flack and criticism does not come collectively or individually towards people who represent the council.
Absolutely, unequivocally.
Thank you. Question 7 from Councillor Mark Clark. Did you wish to actually...
As we've described unanimity tonight, I withdraw the question.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we're on agenda item 4 now.
Yeah.
We will continue to agenda item 4. Any other items which the Chairman decides are urgent? There are none. Can I take the opportunity to thank you all for working through this evening's important business? A reminder that the Cabinet will consider LGR and the final proposals tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. A summary of the key points of the debate from the meeting tonight will be published prior to the Cabinet meeting and will be considered alongside the published report and its appendices. I now declare this meeting closed. Thank you.